In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 things that no one tells you about being a CEO. Because everyone talks about strategy, scale, and systems, but very few people talk about what actually happens to you. The identity shifts, the mental traps, and the emotional cost that comes with leading at the highest level. Whether you've just stepped into the CEO role for the first time or you've been in it for years, these insights are going to help you navigate the biggest challenges that come with your growth. I'm Byron Morrison, author of The Effective CEO, and I help scale up CEOs become the leader their business needs to take it to the next level of success. And to help you take the first step towards taking control beyond this video, I've also put together the Effective CEO Strategic Assessment. It's a short diagnostic that's going to help you uncover what's draining your time, keeping you stuck in the weeds, and causing you to bottleneck growth. I'll even personally review it and send you resources to help you with the biggest challenges you're facing. You can find the link to take the assessment in the description of this video. So with that being said, let's dive in. The first thing that no one tells you about being CEO is that what got you here won't get you there. What makes you a great founder is your ability to hustle, wear every hat, and dive in and get things done. While that worked at the start to build momentum and traction, if you try to operate that same way as you scale, it's not a matter of if, but when you become the bottleneck. Because stretching yourself thin keeps you stuck in the weeds and over-involved in tasks that aren't a good use of your time. That's why as the business grows, your role has to grow with it. You need to shift from operator to architect, from doing the work to designing how the work gets done. But that's where even the best founders get stuck because they've built their identity around being the one who fixes, drives, and solves. It gave them a feeling of control and made them feel valuable. So when the business evolves, they don't. They keep leading it like the founder who built it instead of becoming the CEO who can scale it. And the painful truth is, you can outgrow your systems, your team, or even your business model. But if you outgrow yourself and you don't realize it, everything around you starts breaking. And most founders don't burn out because they're doing too much. They burn out because they're trying to be someone they no longer need to be. That's why the version of you who built the business is not the version of you who can scale it. That brings us to the second thing that no one tells you about being a CEO. Your worth isn't enduring, it's in leading. Every CEO that I've worked with has hit this wall where they start to say, if I don't jump in, everything will fall apart. If I'm not being busy, am I really doing enough? But those are the same beliefs that are keeping them stuck. A perfect example is a CEO that I was coaching who was running a $60 million a year company. When we met, his aim was to scale it to 85 million in revenue each year. When we dived into his situation, though, he was working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not getting to the tasks that would actually get the company to the next level. That's because most of his day was spent putting out fires, solving problems his team should handle, and working on tasks that weren't a good use of his time. This is why he'd often end the week exhausted, but despite being busy, not actually sure what he moved forward. When we look deeper, he wasn't lacking time. He was lacking clarity. He wasn't actually sure what he should be working on at this level, as he hasn't figured out where the business needed him right now. So what we needed to do was redefine his role by getting him clear on what only he should be doing. And from there, we could focus on empowering his team to own everything else. The hardest part about letting go, though, wasn't the systems. It was changing his identity. For him, his worth was tied to his output, and he found comfort in ticking things off and getting things done. The thing is, though, often the most important tasks a CEO can do are in the stepping back, processing problems, and solving big picture challenges. The issue with them, though, is often these tasks don't actually feel like work. That's why for the CEO and with so many of the other CEOs I work with, focusing on these areas of the business bring with it a lot of feelings of guilt and like they should be doing something else. That's why the CEO would self-sabotage, throwing himself back into the chaos as he felt comfortable in the weeds. I say this to warn you that the biggest change you need to make is within yourself. where you change your view on what work actually is and where the business needs you most. Because if you don't, you'll keep fighting an internal battle between the things you feel you should be doing and the things that you should actually be focusing on. For that CEO, once we got him to stop tying his worth to his output and to start measuring it by his impact, within months he went from working 80 hours a week to 40 with no drop in output. That's the real CEO evolution. And the big takeaway from this is that your business doesn't need you to do more, it needs you to lead better. The third thing that no one tells you about being a CEO is how lonely it is. You're surrounded by people, yet still feel alone. And that's because no one truly gets what you're going through. You can't vent down. You don't want to share how you feel with your board. And the people you love at home, they don't fully understand the pressure you're under. So you internalize and bottle it up, putting on a facade and act to the outside world as you don't want others to see that your internal state doesn't match your external success. To make things even harder, there's always that feeling that you should be doing something more. So even when you have wins, you feel like you can't celebrate it because there's always something else waiting, always another problem that needs solving, another issue that needs your attention. And that isolation is draining. And it's why so many CEOs burn out or reach the point where they start to question whether the stress, pressure, and sacrifices are actually worth it. This is a big part of the reason why my average client stays with me for over 2 years, as they view the value of having someone in their corner to open up, to challenge their thinking, to vent or get issues off their chest is not a nice to have. It's a necessity, as it gives them a safe and judgment-free place to be heard, to be held accountable, and to give them that feeling that they're not getting into the ring alone. I share this as I know that so many CEOs view asking for help as a weakness. And I've had so many intro calls where a CEO will admit that they've been following my work for months, sometimes well over a year. All of it resonated. They wanted to reach out, but they still couldn't bring themselves to do it. That's because they felt like they should have this handle, they should know how to solve these problems, that asking for help would be admitting defeat. If you look at any top CEO, though, one thing they all have in common is they surround themselves with the right support. That's because they recognize it's not a weakness, it's a strength and something that helps them perform at their best. That's why if you want to be highly effective in your role, you need outside support. You need someone to challenge your thinking, to check your decisions, to really make sure that everything's in alignment. Because a lot of the time, you're not going to get that from your team, from your board, or those around you, because they've got their own interests, their own agenda, and they also don't see the full picture of what's truly going on. So as you scale, make sure you've always got someone in your corner. Otherwise, you're going to be feeling like you're facing every challenge and setback alone. The fourth thing that no one tells you about being a CEO is how easy it is to get trapped in firefighting. Most CEOs think that they're leading, but rarely they're just reacting. Every day starts with good intentions, then it just takes one message, one email, one crisis, and before you know it, the entire day's gone. And if you're asking yourself, what did I actually get done? You're busy, but you're not moving anything forward. You're solving everyone else's problems because you haven't learned to defend your time or to say no to what doesn't matter. And that's not leadership, that's survival. And survival mode doesn't scale. So many overwhelmed CEOs fall into a trap where they convince themselves it's just a busy season or they just need to get through this quarter and then things will quieten down and they can refocus. The thing is, though, there's always going to be something that needs your attention, new problems, new demands, new challenges to navigate. So if you're waiting for the storm to settle, it's never going to come. Because of that, one of the biggest skills that you need to develop is learning to set boundaries. That means getting comfortable with saying no, defending your time, and not allowing your days to get derailed by other people who want your attention. What I find with so many CEOs, though, is because they have so much on their plate, their focus is just on getting things done or making it through the day without much thought about what they're taking on or where they're spending their time. You can't fix what you can't see, though, which is why, as I mentioned before, I created the Effective CEO Strategic Assessment. It's going to help you uncover where you're losing control of your time, what's keeping you stuck in the weeds, and what you need to stop being the bottleneck. And you can take it for for free using the link in the description of this video. Because until you fix this, you'll continue being in a cycle of trying to outwork a problem that's actually coming from a broken way of operating. The fifth thing that no one tells you about being a CEO, and this is probably the one that's the most overlooked, but also the biggest issue, and that is that your biggest challenge won't be strategy, it'll be people. You can have the best plan in the world, but if your team doesn't take ownership, you'll always be the one dragging it across the finish line. The reality is you can't scale chaos, and you don't rise to the level of your vision, you fall to the level of your people. That's why the hardest part of leadership isn't setting direction, it's getting people to follow through. So many CEOs I work with tell me it's just faster if I do it myself, but that's not efficiency, that's fear. Fear of letting go, fear of trusting, fear of not being involved. And until you fix that, you'll always be the bottleneck in your own business. The hardest part of this, though, is this is the side of the role that most CEOs are least prepared for. They thrive on the strategy, vision, and getting things done, but when it comes to getting others to execute on it, they falter, as no one ever taught them this side of their role. And for so many CEOs, this is unfortunately where the bulk of their time goes, is because they haven't set their team up for success. They're constantly over-involved, fixing mistakes, or pulled into things they shouldn't. That's why such a big part of my Evolve CEO program is focused on the people side of leadership. Because once we've got you clear on what you should be doing, we then need to get you out of everything else by ensuring you're clearly communicating expectations, holding people accountable, and getting your team to own outcomes, not just tasks. Because if you don't get that right, you'll never fully get out of the weeds and your business will continue feeling like a mental and emotional drain where you're spending your days on things that aren't actually a good use of your time. So there you have it. 5 things that no one tells you about being CEO. But here's the truth that ties it all together. Being an effective CEO isn't about doing more, it's about becoming more. One of my favorite quotes is your business's growth will never outgrow your inner growth. That's why it's so important to recognize that your business will only grow to the level that you do. And if you keep leading like the founder who built it, you'll keep bottlenecking its potential. Growth at this level isn't just strategic, it's personal. And you can read every book and build every system, but if your identity doesn't evolve and you don't change how you show up, then you'll always get pulled back into the same patterns. That's the gap that we bridge inside the Evolve CEO, helping you upgrade how you think, lead, and operate so that you can step into the version of you that your business needs next. And you can find out more about working directly with me using the link in the description of this video, and my email address is there as well if you just want to drop me a message. Also, as I said earlier, to help you take the next step towards taking control, don't forget to take the Effective CEO Strategic Assessment. It's going to help you figure out exactly where you're stuck and what needs to shift in order for you to become the leader that your business needs. So, what I want to leave you with is this. After working with CEOs in 18 different countries, one thing I can tell you is that being a CEO doesn't get any easier, but it does get clearer. Once you stop measuring your worth by how much you do and you start focusing on who you're becoming. That's the real shift. And it's the one that allows you to scale a company without losing yourself or your sanity along the way. So I'd love to hear from you. What has been the biggest change or challenge that you've seen from becoming CEO that you didn't even realize would be a problem? Share it down in the comments below because it may just help someone else who's going through what you did right now. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. I've been Byron Morrison. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.